Bill here, and what I'm going to talk to you about today are some things you can do to warm up your shoulder joints before a workout. And as usual, before I get into anything on my videos, I would like to precaution you that if you're over age 30, have a cardiac, respiratory, or orthopedic condition, that you check with your appropriate physician before proceeding with an exercise routine. Okay, now when should you do a shoulder warm-up? For example, for me, I do chest, back, shoulder on Monday and Thursdays, and as part of my chest, back workout, I'll do a shoulder warm-up, because then by the time I do shoulders later, I've already worked and warmed up those areas. If you split things a little differently, say you do chest followed by shoulders, then you would want to do it at the start of your chest warm-up, get some of those areas warmed up. Basically, what you're trying to do is get some of the smaller muscle structures, tendons, ligaments, so forth, in your rotator cuff structure, warmed up, pliable, and get some synovial fluid moving, so you're less likely to injure yourself when you're working out. Now, the first thing I'll show you, same thing I showed you as a shoulder workout, very simple lateral raises. What you want to do is maintain the natural curves of your back. Start with your arms down like this, elbows slightly bent, and just merely raise smoothly up, pause slightly, back down, smoothly up, back down. What you want to avoid doing, you don't want to go ahead, you don't want to fling this up like that, and because when you're doing that, you're doing more of an external rotation movement rather than an abduction movement. The other thing is external rotation. So again, natural curves of the back, keep those. And this is about as far, when I'm holding my elbows roughly even with my shoulders, it's about as far down as my hands can go. So what you do is just kind of smoothly go up. I would say stop, go no higher than about there, back down smoothly, up and back down. What you want to avoid doing when you're doing that, you don't want to go flinging these things up like that, because then again you're combining an abduction movement with external rotation, and when you're doing a warm-up movement you want to use weights which were well within your capacity. I'm demonstrating with these little pound and quarter magnet weights. You don't have to use those. You can use something like cans of tuna, cans of soup, any kind of light object you can hold on to. And the last thing I'm going to show for shoulder warm-up is basically a bent over lateral movement. Basically bent over. Again, try to keep the natural curves of your back as best as you can. And elbows slightly bent. And you want to keep your shoulder joints pressed down so you're not banging the humeral head against the underside of the clavicle. Basically draw up and back down, up and back down. Again, one of the things you want to avoid, you don't want to go flinging these things out, because, and again, you're combining external rotation with adducting your shoulder blades. Now, a couple of things I want to show you for some shoulder stabilization, or some things I learned from having rehab after a couple of shoulder surgeries myself. Now the one, it's basically, I normally do the stand, but I'm trying to avoid getting my head cut off in the video. You essentially would be standing with your elbow, or excuse me, with your hand down by your leg, elbow straight but not locked, and essentially you smoothly raise it up, pause very slightly, back down, up, smoothly, back down. Again, what you want to concentrate on doing is trying to keep the head of the humerus kind of pressed down a little bit so you're not banging against the underside of the clavicle and impinging on those rotator cuff tendons. And so you essentially want the head of the humerus to smoothly glide in the joint, and also your shoulder blade to kind of smoothly glide back there as well. What you want to avoid doing is you don't want to, again, fling this thing up like that. You want to make it a smooth, controlled movement. And the last thing I'm going to show you is external rotation. That works largely the infraspinatus and some of the other external rotator parts of your rotator cuff structure. So let me get this towel back here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the ground, so I hope you guys can get a good view of this. Then you just tuck it under your arm, between your arm and your torso, and kind of keep it firmly tucked in there. And what you want to do on this is simply go from here and rotate up smoothly, back down, and then up smoothly, back down. What you want to avoid doing is you don't want to go flinging this up, moving your arm markedly away from your torso, because then, again, you're combining an external rotation with an abduction movement, which is not what you want to do. You want to focus more on the external rotation to stabilize those appropriate parts of your shoulder structure. And so those are my thoughts for today on shoulder warm-up and shoulder stabilization. Take care, be healthy.